Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzo.
And today we're talking about Superman 3, released in 1983, directed by Richard Lester, written by David Newman and Leslie Newman, and starring Christopher Reeve, Richard Pryor, Annette O'Toole, Robert Vaughn, Annie Ross, Pamela Stevenson, Jackie Cooper, Mark McClure, Gavin O'Herlihy, and Margot Kidder in basically a cameo.
Yeah, you're right.
She's not really in the movie. She's at the beginning and the end.
Wasn't she also the "and" credit?
She might have been. I don't know. I don't remember. I might have missed it. I tried watching it this time. I tried to pay attention to everything going on during those opening credits, so I wasn't really paying attention to the actual titles this time around.
Oh, you mean like the action sequence?
Yeah, like what was going on.
Yeah.
Which is the insanity, I would say, of the opening title sequence. But before we get into the opening credits, I was going to say I don't really have a memory of seeing this movie for the first time. I mean, this movie came out the year I was born, so it's a movie I remember watching. I either rented it from Blockbuster or saw it on TV or whatever. I remember watching it a few times as a kid. I also remember it scaring me as a kid. The whole, well, we'll get into it towards the end, but it freaked me out as a kid. But
I remember my first time watching it.
Do you? You do?
Yeah.
Was it today?
Yes. Yes, it was. I had seen like a small snippet here and there of it. I don't remember when. I just remember seeing him flying Richard Pryor somewhere. Right. And I remember, I don't know how, but I remember him fighting a bad Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's literally it. And yeah, I'm fairly certain this was my true first time watching it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, all four Superman movies I watched quite a bit as a kid, but we never owned any of them. So I either just rented it from and I must have rented it a couple times because I've seen all of them more than once. But this one I think was my least favorite as a kid because it did freak me out. The whole computer. I mean, it's the part that really freaked me out as a kid was Vera being turned into like the robot woman.
Yeah, it was pretty dark.
Yeah.
Especially for when it came out.
Right.
I have not seen Superman 4 either.
Oh, wow.
And I remember seeing a snippet of that, of him standing, I think, in front of Congress or something.
Mm-hmm.
And me being like...
I think it's the UN, actually.
Okay. And me being like, that's the whole movie. That's got to be one of the most boring movies ever. So to hear you say that this was your least favorite Superman movie makes me think that maybe there's more to Superman 4 than just the UN.
Well, I mean, there is, but we'll obviously talk about Superman 4, but I will say this. I remember liking Superman 4, but I think Superman 4 has like the worst critic rating. I don't know what the audience score is on it, but I think it's genuinely considered, or not genuinely, it's generally considered the worst Superman film. But I kind of, like I said, I kind of liked it. However, I have not seen it in forever, so I am curious to see what I think about it. When we rewatch it for the podcast, or when I rewatch it, and when you watch it for the first time.
Clearly, it didn't do very well enough to garner a fifth movie.
It did not. Yeah, well, this movie made money. Superman 1, Superman 2 were both well received. Critics liked them, audiences liked them. This movie, critics didn't really care for, but it still made a bunch of money, which
probably at the beginning because people liked Superman 2 and they're like,
yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked it up. I haven't looked up the numbers. I don't think it made as much money as Superman 2, but it was still a financial success and was allowed them to make Superman 4.
Right.
Superman 4, I think, was a complete flop. I don't know how much money Superman 4 made, but you're right. It didn't do well enough for them to have a Superman 5. And there wouldn't be another Superman movie for 20 years.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now that we're old, because we are.
Right.
And 20 years doesn't seem like that long of a time. Like, it's long for a movie, but like it's not like, crazy.
It doesn't seem as long as it did, when you were younger, but
right.
But still 20 years but to not have a Superman movie is kind of crazy. Can you imagine?
Also they had the problem of how do we recast Christopher Reeve?
Well, that's true. He was such an iconic, Superman. He was the Superman.
He is the Superman.
He is the Superman. He was the best Superman. And so I think that was maybe probably the biggest issue, but and they tried to make a Superman movie. There was going to be the Nicolas Cage Superman Lives movie in the late 90s and everything. So there was, I think, attempts to make there was also the Mick G Superman movie that was going to come out, which was the one written by J.J. Abrams, I believe.
When was that?
It was early 2000s, I think. So it was before, it was probably...
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I think this could all be internet myth or whatever, but supposedly the reason it kind of fell apart was because they wanted to shoot it in Australia, and Mick G is afraid of flying, and he refused to get on an airplane, and then the movie just kind of fell apart because of that, which is kind of weird. You'd think they would have just hired a new director who was willing to fly, which I guess essentially they did. They hired Bryan Singer, but then he completely redid the script and everything.
Well, there's some backstory to Bryan Singer, but we'll go into that at least from what I've heard when we do
Superman Returns.
Superman Returns, yeah.
All right. Well, back to Superman 3. This movie starts off with Richard Pryor in the unemployment office, I guess. And he's essentially told that his unemployment benefits have run out. He's no longer eligible. And he sees a matchbook with an ad for, become a computer programmer. And I don't know, computers, home computers weren't really a thing yet in 1983, right? So
not on the large scale.
Right. So I feel like computers in general, to the general public, were still kind of new. People didn't really understand computers.
Right.
And the idea of hiring a computer programmer with no experience, they just come in and take a test, and then they're like, "You're a computer programmer." That kind of cracks me up a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's how the movie starts, it's kind of a weird opening for a Superman movie. It's not an action scene or anything. It's Richard Pryor in the unemployment office. He gets the matchbook. He gets the epiphany. And then we go into the opening credits, and the opening credits are ridiculous.
Yes. Let's go back to the fact that this is my first time seeing this movie.
Yeah, you don't have a nostalgia factor.
And I'm first of all, a lot of the gags that they were trying to do, I don't know if you noticed, but I would imagine, I don't know how you could not, they were blurred out.
Yeah, it was the bottom half of the screen was kind of blurred for the credits.
Right.
And I don't really understand why they did that either.
And I don't remember what part it was. It seems like it might have been the cement scene or something. And there was just something happening that was supposed to be funny. And yeah, it was underneath the credits.
Yeah.
It was very weird.
It's just Richard Lester, I guess. I've never seen any Richard Lester movies except for Superman 2 and Superman 3. And I know we talked about this with Superman in the Superman 2 episode. I think he directed the Beatles movie, Hard Day's Night, I think. And then I think he did a Three Musketeers movie, and I don't know if that one is a comedy, but from what I understand, Richard Lester was more of a comedy director than an action movie director.
Mm-hmm. And
it's obvious in this opening credits sequence that he was really kind of trying to push for the comedy. And I don't know if I really think Richard Lester has the greatest sense of humor. You know what I mean?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, the gags, I just don't think the gags are all that funny. I also find it some of the choices were weird. the first time we see Clark Kent, I should say, he's buying a copy of the Daily Planet, which I thought it was kind of weird. Like, he works for the Daily Planet.
Right.
Surely he could just go to his office and they'd have a
Is
copy.
that the scene where he pulls it out and like rips
And
it?
it rips, and he just kind of like looks at it and he's like, oh, well.
And to me, I'm like, was that supposed to show like Superman
strength?
Yeah, like what?
I don't know. And then the penguin's on fire. That's like his first big Superman moment. Is there's like a little toy penguin on fire. He picks it up and uses his super breath to blow it out, and then he sets it down and lets it walk away.
Yes, granted, I'm laughing right now, not because it's funny, but how ridiculous.
Because it's ridiculous. Yeah, I wrote, my note was like, these opening credits are so slapsticky.
Yeah.
It's just,
and I like good slapstick.
But this isn't good slapstick.
Right. Like for me, like Charlie Chaplin, he's
right.
genius.
Yeah.
But no, this was not that.
The blind guy whose dog runs away, and then he grabs I guess it was like a street painting thing, and he's just going around in circles, and he knocks the guy into like the hole. It's just stupid. That's all I can really say about it. And then the one moment I do like though is when it's also a little silly, but when Clark goes into the photo booth to change into Superman, and he comes out and the kid is about to go, and he looks at the pictures and shows him like taking off his glasses and then like opening his shirt, and the bottom one is just Superman. He rips it and gives it to the kid. I always liked that little part, but the guy like I don't even remember why he crashes his car.
Is that it's like I thought in that scene, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought he gave the kid, I thought he ripped off the Superman picture and kept that one and gave him the ones of him changing, and I was like, wow,
what?
Yeah,
no, I'm pretty sure he gave the kid the picture of Superman.
Okay, and
he kept the changing to preserve his secret identity.
Right, that makes sense. I thought it was backwards, and I was like, man, this to me. So I will just say immediately, watching and you can already tell, watching the credits, the opening credit sequence, I already had a bad feeling in my stomach about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, we could just go right out and say it's not a very good movie.
I'll meet you there. You are correct. It is not a very good movie.
It's not a very good movie. Yeah, so I mean, Superman has one other kind of big moment in that scene where he saves the person from the cars filling. And like I said, I don't remember exactly. There's a lot of chain reaction type stuff that happens in those opening credits, and I forget what happens with the car exactly. But it crashes and like hits like a fire hydrant or something, and the fire hydrant starts filling the car up with water, and he can't get out, and nobody can open the doors. And Superman comes and rips off the sunroof and pulls him out and shakes his hand, which I thought was hilarious. And then and that's like his big moment in the beginning of the movie. I don't know. It's like you said, it's lame, and it like you said, it puts a bad taste in your mouth. You're just kind of like, how long? You're like looking at your watch already. You're like, how long is this movie?
Yeah.
So yeah, not.
I wonder if it felt as lame back then though as it does now.
Probably not. But the thing that I thought was like Superman, the movie, and it's hard for me to say things definitively because I wasn't even alive yet when Superman the movie came out. But I believe that there weren't a whole lot of superhero movies made before Superman the movie. There was Batman the movie with Adam West,
which was a satire to begin with.
Right, it was a comedy, and it was a comedy, but it was also kind of aimed towards children.
Yeah, but it's definitely
but it's satire too.
Yeah.
And so, but I was going to say I think the general public kind of probably considered superheroes for children. And Superman the movie, I think, changed some people's minds. I think that was a movie that was made for everyone, including adults that could like Superman. Superman 2 as well, I would think. This movie,
I would agree. It was made for adults, but it was obviously we want to make it a family movie,
family friendly, right?
But we want it to be entertaining for
everyone,
yes.
not just kids. This movie, I feel like the whole opening, and I don't know if they were trying to gear this more towards children, but that's what it feels like to me. It's like they're trying to make more of almost a kid movie with this, like something kids would laugh at, Oh, the penguin's on fire. Oh, the guy fell in the hole, and he's all like, oh, gosh.
Yeah.
It's just very... Yeah. That's how it feels to me. It's like they went backwards, and they were like, let's make this for kids. Superheroes are for kids.
There's a few... I can't think of any specific examples, but there are 70s movies from that time period. Well, obviously from that time period, if they were 70s movis. Well, when did this
was 83.
83, okay. But it feels to me like it's got a 70s feel to it.
Yeah.
Late 70s. And just to me, that time period, there are certain things that I've seen that kind of just have that comedy to it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like some of the Roger Moore James Bond movies,
right?
If you know what I'm talking about, just that over the top ridiculous humor. And I mean, you could be right, and I can see where you'd say it was geared toward kids, but I could also see it just being that goofy humor that
that was just popular back then.
Yeah,
that could be too. Maybe it was just a sign of the times, perhaps. I don't know. You mentioned the James Bond movies, which makes me wonder. Maybe it was British humor of the time, because I believe Richard Lester was a British director.
Oh, okay.
Although this was an American produced movie, but maybe his British kind of humor was an influence on it or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's just it just kind of makes you go, did they even watch? I mean, Richard Lester directed part 2 technically, but it's like, did you even watch part 1 and 2?
Right. Yeah, you're right. It's very, very it's very separated from the original 2 movies.
Yeah. I guess a good indication that they were going towards comedy was the fact that they cast Richard Pryor too.
Yes. I have not seen a Richard Pryor movie before.
Oh, really?
And I've seen some of his stand-up.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he's considered maybe if not the greatest. And it's been a while, but I remember when I saw his stand-up, I personally was not a fan. I thought he was too colorful, and it just wasn't my type of humor. However, even though there, with the writing of this being as goofy as it was, I thought he was actually a pretty good actor, and I kind of liked him in this.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I've seen maybe clips of some of his stand-up, and I would maybe agree with you that it didn't do a whole lot for me. But I've seen a few of his movies, and I like him in the movies that he makes. I think he's funny in those movies. This being one of them. I've seen a couple of the Gene Wilder, Richard Pryor movies. Those are good.
I have not seen those, but that's what I was thinking of when I think of Richard Pryor movies, is Gene Wilder.
Yeah. Those are worth checking out if you get a chance, Can't remember. I know See No Evil, Hear No Evil's one, which is a funny one.
What's the one where they're in jail?
I don't remember. He was originally, I think, supposed to be in Blazing Saddles.
That would have been interesting.
But I think I don't know if it was because of his drug use or something, but I don't think they could get him insured. So the studio I think kind of was nah. I don't know. That movie I feel like was before this movie though, so I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, speaking of Richard Pryor, I think the next time we see him, he's at that computer programming test.
Yes.
And he doesn't even know how to do things. He just does them, which is also hilarious to me. That you don't know what you're doing. You're just coding. And he impresses the instructor. The instructor actually asks, "How'd you do that?" And he goes, "I don't know." And then he's given a job. And then the next note I wrote, and I'm probably skipping ahead a little, but the next note I wrote is, has Richard Pryor's character never received a paycheck before? Because when he gets his first paycheck from his job, he's all thrown off by the fact that they're taking taxes out and stuff.
That's a good point.
He's like a 40-year-old dude. He's never gotten a paycheck before. But I don't know. It's the whole setup for the movie because the whole idea, which Office Space steals from,
Right.
is the fact that there's like these half cents that you're getting paid essentially, but they don't make it into the paycheck, and they're just kind of out there. So Gus, that's Richard Pryor's character name. He creates like an account to put all those half cents in, and he ends up giving himself like $90,000
in 1983.
Yeah. Which I meant to look that up in the inflation calculator, and I forgot. But
it's a lot.
It's a good amount of money.
And that's one paycheck.
That's just one paycheck. Yeah, one pay cycle. So pretty good. And obviously the company catches on pretty quickly. Yeah. And that is one moment.
Why?
Why do they catch on?
Yeah.
Well, I think there was, I assume payroll or somebody cut a check for $90,000 and was like,
Yeah. But yeah, if the computer did it, it's like, if it's just getting sent out into the nether, then how would anyone notice?
Which is weird because the guy that tells Gus about it says that, the company can't be bothered to collect these half cents. But clearly they could be bothered to do it because it's $90,000 worth of half cents.
Right.
So you'd think the company would have made their own account already or something and funneled those half cents into their own account. Robert Vaughn plays Ross Webster. And he's like the head of the company. He's very clearly, in my opinion, supposed to be Lex Luthor.
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's one of the things I thought was kind of a bummer about this movie is the fact that, like, you had Lex Luthor in part 1, you have him in part 2. Gene Hackman probably had no interest in coming back. I think that's part of the reason why Margot Kidder's not really in this movie is, I believe, because there was bad blood between the actors and the producers for firing Richard Donner. And I think that's why Gene Hackman didn't come back. Margot Kidder didn't want to be a part of the movie. Christopher Reeve actually didn't want to be a part of the movie either. This is all based on IMDb trivia that I read. Christopher Reeve didn't want to be a part of the movie either, but was convinced to come back if he made changes to the script. So it kind of makes me wonder, what changes did Christopher Reeve make to this script, and was it worse or better originally?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Christopher Reeve also has a story credit on Superman 4, so it's possible he just, I don't know, was maybe not a very good, maybe his Superman ideas are not that good, I don't know. So anyway, Robert Vaughn, what I was going to say with the bummer about it was, like, obviously they couldn't get Gene Hackman to come back as Lex Luthor, so they could have come up with another villain or used another villain from the comics, but instead they just have a Lex Luthor type. And they just don't call him Lex Luthor, they call him Ross Webster.
Right.
It's kind of uncreative to me.
Now, technically, with the computer, the supercomputer that's built and everything, I wrote down before it started going crazy was like, is that supposed to be
Brainiac?
Yeah,
and I think, again, I read, like I always say this, you got to take IMDb trivia with a grain of salt because anybody can post stuff on there, but supposedly that was kind of the original intent, was it was supposed to be Brainiac, and then they reworked it and had it be Gus that created it and all that stuff. So that is, it's I guess you could almost say an homage to Brainiac, maybe.
Right.
But it's obviously not Brainiac, but yeah. So it's probably it's the closest thing we've gotten to Brainiac so far in a live action adaptation, theatrical release film anyway. Because he's been on TV shows and stuff, but yeah. So anyway, Robert Vaughn is the CEO of this company, and what I was gonna say earlier was this is the kind of one of the moments that actually did make me laugh was when they find out the $90,000 has been taken, and he goes, "Well, whoever took this is gonna want to lie low. He's not gonna want to draw attention to himself unless he's a complete moron." And then you hear like tires screeching and they look out the window and Richard Pryor like pulls up in a new sports car. He doesn't even pull it into a parking spot. He like actually pulls through the parking spots and parks it like in the middle of the, the road. Gets out. And I thought that part was kind of funny. Unless he's a complete moron.
Yeah. There were a couple funny parts in the movie.
Yeah.
That was one, and there are a couple others I can't, maybe as we continue talking, I'll remember them. But Anyway, after around that time, was that before or after we have the oil rig?
Or there was the chemical plant.
That's what.
fire.
Yes, the chemical plant.
I think it was after. So that's what I was going to bring up. Where Clark Kent, after he saves the person in the car, he goes to work, and Margot Kidder says she's going on vacation. Lois Lane says she's going on vacation, and Clark is convincing Perry White to let him write a story about his Smallville high school reunion. Which, I understand it was going to be his whole idea was it's going to be like a, personal,
right,
look at small town America or something kind of type piece. But I don't understand why the Daily Planet would have any interest in a Smallville high school reunion story. But anyway,
they don't.
No, right. But he sends Clark anyway and sends Jimmy with him, which is, oh yeah, Jimmy gets injured. I was like, Jimmy doesn't even go to Smallville. But yeah, he sends Jimmy with him. On the way to Smallville, there's a chemical fire. And I don't know how close you were paying attention, but Clark and Jimmy get out of the bus and they hunker down next to a police car, and they're literally 3 feet away from a policeman.
Didn't the police officer even look over and see them?
Yes. And then what's even better is Jimmy says to Clark, I wrote this down. He says, danger goes with, he goes, I'm going to go in and take some pictures. Distract the police or whatever. And Clark goes, don't you think that's a little dangerous? And he says, danger goes with the territory, Mr. Kent. And then he hunkered down, scoots by. He walks directly in front of the cop. The cop just looks at him.
Yes, looks at him. And then looks back shrugs. And he kind of shakes his head oh, weirdo.
Yeah, whatever. Worst police officer ever. And they both are, it's just so obvious.
And what's so when you think about this scene though, how was that filmed? And then being all right, we need you to look at Jimmy Olsen as he passes by you, and then be oh well, that's the take we're doing, guys. Good job. That's a wrap. How?
Everybody take lunch. Yeah, I don't know. And maybe it was one of those things where they brought it up and they're we're standing right by this cop. You want, and he's gonna see me walk by. And the director's it's funny. It'll be funny that way.
I was going to say, maybe this is part of that crazy humor.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It just seemed stupid.
Yes.
The fact, and like I said, it's just the worst cop ever. He's obviously there to keep people back. And he just lets Jimmy scoot by and he's whatever.
And he's not even walking in. Jimmy Olsen is trying to be sneaky.
Yeah. So Jimmy goes in to take pictures, and obviously Clark goes and changes. He just gets in the back of the cop car and changes in the back of the cop car. He opens one door, gets in as Clark, opens the other door, gets out as Superman. And the driver does that, very cliche kind of thing where he looks back and he goes, nah.
Yeah.
right. I just imagine that, even though Superman's now flying away. Superman comes in, saves, he says, what can I do? And he's got to get the people out of there. And so he flies up to the roof. The building's kind of on fire, and he pulls out almost look like a smokestack chimney type thing.
Right.
And lays it down, and the people slide through. And the note I wrote for that was, does Superman feel heat? He obviously is impervious to bullets and fire even. You think about that scene from Man of Steel where he saves the guys on the oil rig and there's flames literally coming off of his body. Does he actually feel heat? That was my question, because I wondered if that smokestack was actually hot and he just had people sliding down this metal tube.
The second they sit on it, they're oh!
Yeah, and he's oh, sorry guys. That was my thought.
That's funny. I didn't even think of that. That's funny.
It could cause some problems. I assume that he can tell something is hot.
Yeah, he just doesn't feel pain.
Yeah, so I would hope that he would know that the smokestack or whatever that thing is, chimney, would be hot, too hot for them to slide down. But anyway, So he saves them that way. And again, the scene is kind of, it just doesn't seem like it was thought through, because he's got super breath, you know? I mean, he could just blow this fire out.
My young son mentioned that.
Yeah.
When he went to the lake and like froze it, and he was like, why didn't he just use the breath on the fire?
That's exactly what I thought. He like flies a mile
Well, that's
away.
what I was expecting him to do, like at the beginning of the scene.
That's what he should have done.
Yeah.
He goes in there and talks to the guy. You know, he tells the scientist guy, he's like, you got to get out of here. And he's like, no. The scientist is like, no, I got to stay here because I'm with all these vials of acid. And if they get too hot, what is he going to do? Why does he need to stay there for that? If they get too hot, he's going to die.
Right.
So
it's like a captain going down with his ship.
Yeah, I guess so. And Superman's like, makes sense. So, I mean, it's obvious it was a setup for later, but yeah. So the guy says, like, if these vials of acid go beyond this whatever degrees, then it becomes volatile. So Superman, rather than using his super breath on the fire, flies a mile away, uses super breath on the lake to freeze the lake, and then carries the lake over the fire, drops it, and it melts and turns into rain and puts the fire out that way, which is, again, just stupid.
It was so bad. So bad. That, in my opinion, is probably the worst part of the movie.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, it's just illogical, basically.
Yeah.
And then while Jimmy's trying to take photos of the fire, he gets injured and sent back to Metropolis. So it's one of those things where, like, why even write Jimmy into that scene? You know?
Right. Just, I guess, for familiarity.
I guess. To have somebody for Superman to save, even though he's already saving these other people. But it's like, it was one of those things where it almost seemed like they didn't know what to do with Jimmy.
Yeah.
So they were like, well, we'll send him to Smallville. He'll get injured in the thing, and then he'll go away for the rest of the movie. I don't know. So Jimmy does not accompany Clark on his trip to Smallville for the high school reunion, where we meet Lana Lang, played by Annette O'Toole, which is always cool to me because Annette O'Toole, number one, was Lana Lang in this, but then she went on to play Martha Kent on Smallville.
I did not know that because I never really watched Smallville. And to me, Annette O'Toole is Beverly.
Oh, that's right. From It. Yeah, that's right.
So I recognized her immediately as that, and she's a good actress. I liked her a lot. Yeah. I liked her a lot.
She's a good Lana Lang too, yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed like that's, they were obviously trying to set her up as the new love interest since Margot Kidder really didn't want to have anything to do with this movie. And I like the dynamic between her and Clark and how they were. I don't think they were high school sweethearts. I think they liked each other. Yeah, they were just friends. I think maybe they kind of had like a crush on each other, but never told each other about it type of thing. I think maybe they mentioned something like that or something. So I like that whole scene with them. And
yeah, I was rooting for them by the end. I was like, I don't even want them with Lois Lang.
Right, yeah.
I want them with Lana Lang.
Don't even care about her anymore.
Yeah.
It's Lana Lang all the way. Yeah, so I like and part of that I think is Annette O'Toole's acting. I think she just does a really good job with the role and everything.
She did.
Back to Richard Pryor. So Clark is now in Smallville, going to the high school reunion. He sees Lana Lang and he sees Brad, played by Gavin O'Herlihy, who was also in, do you know?
Ghostbusters.
No, he does look like the guy from Ghostbusters.
It's not him?
It's not him.
What? Who is it?
He's from Willow.
I don't. Eric.
Yeah, I think
plays Eric. Yes.
But yeah, he does look like Walter.
He's the blonde knight.
Yes.
Yeah. So I actually watched. That's funny that you brought up Willow because I actually watched Willow like probably a week ago.
Oh, really?
And it was the extended version, which I had never seen.
Was it good?
I like the
theatrical version.
Yes. Because there's a couple extra scenes with Eric in it, and they make you not like him as much. Like he kind of comes off as a tool bag.
Gotcha.
And in the theatrical version, he was not like that.
Right. So scenes that were cut for good reason.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple extended versions of movies like that where it's cool to see the extended version, but you're watching it and you go, okay, I realize why they cut this stuff out. Like there's a 3-hour version of Superman the movie. It was like a TV version is what they called it, and they put it out on Blu-ray or at least digital. I own it digitally, and I watched it, and I was like, okay, 2.5-hour version is good. The 3-hour version doesn't quite work.
Honestly, I don't know if I've ever seen an extended version where I liked it, where I liked the extended stuff.
Right.
To me, every time I see an extended movie, I take that back. Lord of the Rings extended is good.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think pretty much any other movie I've seen where there's extended, I can always tell there just wasn't as much quality put into it, and yeah, I don't know. So, but yeah, Lord of the Rings, those extended cuts are
the exception.
Yeah, I can't even tell.
Yeah, I feel like there's another one that I enjoy, but I can't think of it at the moment. So you might be right, because like a lot of the extended versions that I can think of, I agree with you. They're inferior to the theatrical version. It's still cool to see it, like I said, but if you have to choose, I'd probably choose the theatrical version. So Clark meets Brad at the high school reunion, and then Richard Pryor meets Brad. So Richard Pryor was found out for stealing the $90,000, and Ross Webster decides that he's going to use Gus's computer genius to essentially use a satellite to control the weather, I guess. And by controlling the weather, because he's owns like coffee plantations or something.
That's right.
Around the world, but Colombia's holding back, and he's going to send the weather to destroy Colombia so that way they learn their lesson and he can make all the money off the coffee. So there's a computer that can, well, I guess there's several computers that can do it, but they decide that they should send it somewhere where I won't notice or, something. So they send them to Smallville. And Brad is like a security guard at the whatever location that holds this computer.
Right.
And so Richard Pryor, which I think this is funny because I don't know, I can't imagine Ross Webster came up with this plan. And so I thought it was actually a really funny plan. Richard Pryor is like he's not even a salesman. He's like I don't know what you would call it. He comes there saying that he's basically got to set up a bar in the boss's office. Like he's got to set up this alcohol, not display, but like bar thing in the boss's office. So he shows all the alcohol and Brad immediately goes wide-eyed and he's like, "Come on in."
Yeah.
And they just start drinking a bunch, and he gets Brad so drunk that he passes out so that way he can use the computer without raising any questions, essentially. And I thought it was funny that I like that Richard Pryor's character was actually drinking with him, because seeing Richard Pryor stumble all drunk over to the computer and try to get it to work.
I like how he was like, "You think I'm drunk?" Like he was convinced he wasn't, and then when he gets up,
he's all talking to the computer and stuff. Yeah. That was a note I wrote was where is it? Richard Pryor playing drunk is actually pretty fun to watch.
Yeah.
I thought he actually did a pretty good job with that.
Yeah.
He was also pretty smart the way he brought Brad in and like tied the card to his hand because he had to do both cards at the same time in order to activate the computer. Yep. I thought that was pretty clever as well. So, yeah, Richard Pryor activates the computer and essentially makes the satellite create weather somehow and destroy Colombia, and the coffee bean crop is destroyed, and Robert Vaughn is very pleased. And I think he does find out while he's on his skyscraper ski slope, which I actually thought was kind of cool. Like, it's ridiculous, it's stupid, but at the same time, it seems it's very kind of comic booky villain, thing to have a ski slope on the top of your skyscraper.
It's definitely Richard Lester Superman-esque. So it fits.
Yes. And I mean, Richard Pryor shows up. They're Ross and his sister Vera, and then what was her name? Lorelai or something like that.
Was that not the same girl from that was with Lex Luthor?
Lex? No, but she's again. It's so obviously kind of supposed to be Miss Tessmacher.
Yeah, that's what I was
just
thinking.
changed it up. They just changed her name. I liked how they made her secretly smart. She was like hiding her intelligence from Ross Webster. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, it's just so obvious. It seemed lazy almost that it was originally supposed to be Lex and Miss Tessmacher, and they just changed the names.
Yeah.
That's like all they did. And then they added Vera. Maybe they were going to introduce like Lex Luthor's sister or something, but Vera is there too. And they're all celebrating on the roof, but then Richard Pryor shows up and says, you're celebrating too early. Superman showed up and he put out the fire or whatever. He saved Columbia. He swooped in and saved him. And while he's telling the story, he decides to put on the skis and like kind of go up the hill a little bit. And then he turns around or something, gets surprised by something and ends up sliding down the ski slope and off the skyscraper.
Right.
And when that was happening, I was like, does Superman save him in this scene? I can't remember. But no. He's like he falls like hundreds of stories, lands on some like awning thing on his feet, and just slides out like into the street and is totally fine. Again, it's Richard Lester comedy, I guess. It's just so dumb.
Yes, it is. It's bad. It's bad. And that's really the major downfall, I think, of this movie, was how heavily they relied and leaned on comedy to be such a big part of this movie.
Richard Pryor should have died in that scene, but saved by skis, I guess. So we cut back to actually I think maybe we might go back to Smallville for a moment, but we go back to Ross Webster and Richard Pryor, and they discuss kryptonite. Or maybe they discuss it on the ski slope. I think they do discuss it on the ski slope, actually, now that I think about it. And they basically figure out that they need to get kryptonite and give it to Superman, and that'll stop him from...
Right, and I'm trying to remember how they even got the idea for kryptonite.
If somebody brings something up, and Lorelai... that's one of the moments where she almost like lets on to her intelligence, because they're like, right, isn't there like something that hurts Superman? And she goes, kryptonite. And they all look at her and she goes, or is it cryptaham or something? She tries to kind of cover it up.
See, to me, that was the moment where I was like, that's gotta be, what's her name? Miss Tessmacher?
Miss Tessmacher.
Yeah. I was like, that's how she knows about kryptonite.
Because she was there for the first, the first go around. Yeah.
Right.
No, but it's a different character, Lorelai.
And I think you might be right about them just changing the names.
Yeah, I honestly feel like
because if that had been Miss Tessmacher, that would have made sense. So
right,
it probably was originally supposed to be, and that was her reason why she even brought it up. But now they've changed the characters, and it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Anyway.
However, if it had been Lex, he would have known about the kryptonite too.
True.
So it might not have even been
Very
a conversation. So I don't know. But they don't obviously know where to find kryptonite, so they decide to just make their own kryptonite. And I don't know, I forget where they find like the ingredient list. The compound breakdown.
Didn't they scanned the area of where Krypton exploded.
Oh, that's right.
And got the makeup of the
meteor.
Yeah. But there was an unknown substance.
There was an unknown substance in there. So they used tar or something?
Yeah.
For the unknown substance?
Yes.
And so they go to Smallville where he's being presented. He's being honored, I guess, in Smallville. And Richard Pryor shows up like kind of like a general and gives him an award, which is essentially just this chunk of kryptonite, which was another note I wrote, which is if you're going to give Superman a fake award that is kryptonite, why make it look like kryptonite? Yes. Why did you not?
I was thinking the same thing. Like, he hands it to him, and obviously Superman has seen kryptonite before, right. But he just takes it like, oh, it's a green kryptonite-looking rock.
Very similar to kryptonite.
I'll take that, sure.
Thank you, General. Yeah, that has always kind of bothered me. Why wouldn't you make that look like an award of like a plaque or something? You know, like it's so weird. So yeah, he just takes it. I don't know what he does with it, but he's got it enough. He's got it long enough that it affects him, but not necessarily right away. It's not until he goes to Lana Lang's house where it starts to kind of kick in, and he starts to be a little bit of a jerk towards Lana Lang. Well, she gets a phone call that there's bus crash. She's like, sorry, I know you have to run, and he's like, I always get there in time.
Yeah.
We've got time.
He's like, you look pretty.
Yeah. Being a little bit creepy to Lana Lang. And then he kind of seems to snap out of it for a second, and he gets there, or he leaves, and he flies to the bus crash, and he shows up, and he goes, what can I do? And the guy's like, well, nothing now, essentially. He doesn't quite say it like that, but he...
Yeah, they were like, if you'd gotten here like a minute sooner, Superman.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Superman. Real jerks to Superman, although, I mean, he was late. But, yeah, I thought that was kind of
But they don't know why.
Right. He could have been saving somebody else. So they're a little harsh.
And it was literally just like a minute late.
Yeah. Nothing now. Gosh.
If you weren't playing golf, Superman.
Sorry to inconvenience you.
But even then, like, it was just the truck that fell over, right? Like, the guy that was in there was saved, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
So what was, like, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, it wasn't really. I don't know.
There was a little bit of a mess to clean up, but I mean, right. Superman can pick that up in a few seconds anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he could have said that. He could have been like, well, we saved, the guy's fine. Truck fell. If you could move that truck for us, that'd be great. If you got time.
Right.
But instead, he was like, well, nothing. Nothing now. You're late. So, yeah. So, it slowly starts to affect him. So, I don't know if red kryptonite was a thing yet. I don't know when red kryptonite was introduced in the comics, but I looked this up because I'd heard also of black kryptonite. And I think black kryptonite was inspired by this movie, actually, because black kryptonite was first introduced, I found out, in Smallville. So what red kryptonite does, and again, I know red kryptonite from Smallville, so I don't know when it was first introduced, but red kryptonite, like gets rid of Clark's inhibitions or whatever, and he kind of becomes a bit of a jerk. You know, he basically, just kind of does. He decides he's just kind of want to do whatever he wants, you know, and so that seems to be kind of the case in this movie. You know, it's almost like it has the effect of red kryptonite, and then black kryptonite basically separates him into two identities, essentially good and bad, which is what happens in the junkyard. So the idea is this kryptonite they made ends up having the effect of red and black kryptonite on him. However, like I said, black kryptonite wasn't introduced till Smallville, so that, like, thinking about black kryptonite, I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. It separates Superman into two beings or whatever.
Is it actual physical in Smallville?
I don't remember it in Smallville, but they adopted it into the comics after it was introduced into Smallville, and I've never seen it happen in the comics either, so I don't know if he splits into two actual people or not. But I feel like he probably did because they probably were kind of going off this movie,
right?
Or doing that effect from this movie.
He does.
Right, and it's so weird because it doesn't. It's one of those things that doesn't make sense.
Well, I just thought of this too. At the end of the fight, when he's like choking him, and then he disappears. Like, was it all just in his head?
Maybe. I mean, that could be the
kind of like Fight Club.
Right. Yeah.
Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Fight Club, sorry.
How interesting would it be if that was the case, though, and you're like, we could have gotten a shot from like one of the junkyard workers like watching, and Superman's just like punching himself and throwing himself into a trash compactor and stuff. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But before we get into the fight, because I do want to talk about the fight, I want to talk about him kind of becoming bad and all the evil stuff he does. Like the very first thing, or one of the first things he does, is Ross Webster sends Lorelei to, I can't remember if it's to, they need him to do something, and I don't remember. I watched this movie a few days ago, so I'm like, of course I can't remember everything perfectly, but she's sitting on top of the Statue of Liberty, and he shows up, and he goes, I hope you don't expect me to save you because I don't do that anymore.
Right.
And my thought was, then why even show up?
Exactly. That was my thought too, man. Like, yeah, why are you even there?
Yeah. It's so weird. And she convinces him to do something. She needs him to, I can't remember if it has something to do with the satellite or, but she basically asks him to do something and he goes off and does it. But I can't remember what it is now.
I can't either. She does take him to her bedroom, though.
Yep, that does happen. He also, he's so evil. He goes and he straightens the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Right.
And then right after he does that, it cuts to somebody reading like Time magazine. And I don't remember what the headline is, but I feel like it's basically, they're calling Superman a jerk. You know, it's like straightened the Leaning Tower and now he's evil. Yeah. But I do love the scene where the Olympic, the guy is running the torch to the Olympics and he goes to light the flame and Superman just blows it out.
It's hilarious, but it doesn't belong in a serious Superman movie. It's like something you'd see on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it was hilarious. He yawns before he does it.
Yeah.
He's like, ah.
And then the guy just like
I like the commentary
walks
before.
Back down the
he's
stairs.
Like, they've ran 950 miles.
Yeah, and then so the last thing he does is he goes to a bar and he's drinking in a bar and he starts flicking the peanuts across.
I actually kind of liked that part.
Did you?
Yeah, like it wasn't so much that, but afterwards, and just it was more the concept of. That's when I realized, we're getting a what if Superman becomes apathetic and doesn't care, and that was kind of cool.
Right.
That's when I start, and I actually kind of even when we were talking about the splitting off and they start fighting each other. It was kind of cool, even though it was very campy to just have a live action version of that
of apathetic Superman,
and
or the fight scene,
both.
Yeah, the fight scene is actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It's
which isn't saying a lot.
Well, that's true. But even though it doesn't quite make sense, unless, like you said, maybe it's a Fight Club type thing, and it's just all kind of happening in his head. But I do like the scene. I like the fight scene between them. Although seeing Clark get kind of crushed in the trash compactor or whatever it's called, I don't know it's not a trash compactor because it's made for cars, but seeing him get kind of crushed in that thing, that freaked me out as a kid too.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was like a claustrophobic type thing or what, but
it's a well shot moment.
And I love too, like as soon as it closes, Superman's in that control booth or whatever, and he just like snaps. He's like, "Yeah, I did it." That always kind of made me laugh.
Yeah.
But no, I like that fight scene, and I like that they changed the color of his suit.
Yeah, I was getting ready to bring that up.
Muted color.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that.
Cool
it's
too.
Almost like the Superman Returns colors.
A little bit. Yep.
It's just it's more like a maroon.
Yeah.
Than a bright, in your face red. And to see Superman come back into those colors was pretty cool. When Clark wins and then takes off his...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did write 2 notes about that fight scene. Number 1, why is there a giant pool of acid in the junkyard?
Yep.
Like just in the
I
middle
wondered
of the
that
junkyard?
Too.
Didn't really get that unless, I mean, do they put
And when
like,
he
car
blew
parts in
the
there?
acid on him, I was expecting it to hurt Superman, which I was going to be like, why was he swimming in
Yeah.
acid? It didn't bother him, but it just like,
Burned his coat.
yeah.
And then the other note I wrote down for it was Superman says to Clark, "You always wanted to fly, Kent." And I thought, wait, what? He does fly. So, like, he's like about to throw him or something, and he's like, "You always wanted to fly, Kent." And I just remember being, did he? But he does fly. Like it didn't make any sense to me, that line.
Right. Yeah.
I wonder if Christopher Reeve even like shook his head at some of these scenes, and he's like, "Whatever."
That's actually probably some of the rewrites that Christopher Reeve did.
Yeah, it's like, I want to add this line in. People are like, "That doesn't make sense." He's like, "No, it makes perfect sense." I don't know, but anyway, but it like you said, it's not saying much, but it is. I think that is my favorite scene of the movie is the fight scene between him and himself. Supposedly, this movie was originally going to be titled Superman versus Superman.
Interesting.
Yeah, and again, I don't know how true this is, but supposedly the producers of Kramer versus Kramer, threatened to sue or something because it was too similar to their title, or I don't know. So they ended up just going. They figured Superman 3 made more sense anyway, so they just called it Superman 3.
Wow.
Like I said, again, I don't know how true that is, but
Right. Well, it would have needed a little bit more Superman versus Superman in it too to be called Superman versus Superman.
right.
Like the
Although some
fight
people
scene-
say that about Batman versus Superman, that movie needed a little bit more.
Well,
I mean, the fight scene's not very long in that movie, but the whole movie is kind of
exactly. It's not. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to necessarily be physical.
right.
But there's not even like just this was literally a very quick moment. Like, what do you think that scene is? It's maybe 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah, maybe. So it is pretty quick, yeah. So to name it Superman versus Superman. Plus, I feel like people wouldn't like the whole leading up to that. They'd be like, "Where's the other Superman? Where why is this movie called Superman versus Superman?" Unless it was like in the trailer, I guess, or something. But still, I feel like that would have been a confusing title.
Yeah.
Once they give the kryptonite, or maybe it's before Gus agrees to give the kryptonite, but he basically tells Ross that he wants him to build a supercomputer for him. And I remember Ross being like, "Well, what does this computer do?" And he goes, "Anything I tell it to," he says, "What does this computer do? What will this computer do for me?" is what Ross says. That's what he says. And he goes, "Anything you tell me to tell it to do." Which, again, is kind of funny to me that they just are like, this computer can do anything. Ridiculous. This is just ridiculous. So they build this giant supercomputer. And then once the computer is built, they tell all the oil tankers to go meet in like a central location. Oh, that's what it is. That's what Lorelai tells her to do. I don't remember if the computer has been built yet, but they convince all the oil tankers. They write some computer program that tells all the oil tankers in the Atlantic Ocean or something to go to this one spot, and there's this one oil tanker that's like, "I'm not doing that. We're supposed to go to Metropolis. We're going to Metropolis." And that's what Lorelai tells Superman to do. She's like, "I need you. There's this one boat that won't go, to where it's supposed to go." And so he goes and puts a giant hole in the boat, and there's a huge oil spill.
Right.
And then he just leaves because he's apathetic Superman, doesn't care. And that's when he meets back up with Lorelai and goes to her bedroom. So that's what it is. Ross tells Gus that that's what he wants him to do. He wants him to write a computer program that will have all the oil tankers go to this one place, so that way he basically controls all the oil. And Gus says, "I'll do it for you if you build me this supercomputer."
Right.
Gus does it. Then they build the supercomputer in record time, I guess. I mean, I don't know how much time has passed, but they build it very quickly, it seems. And then after that, Gus has a change of heart. Essentially, when the computer against Superman, he's like, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Even though it was his idea to build this computer.
But it's not just him.
Is Lorelai against it too? Is that what it is?
Yeah. And what's her name? Vera?
Yeah.
She has a moment where like I never got that, but yeah, she's like she has a moment where I don't remember what she says, but it's something basically of
We shouldn't be doing this?
yes.
Oh, wow. I don't remember the part with Vera,
Yeah.
but I do remember, Gus, definitely.
Oh, it's when Superman calls him out too. Remember he goes,
Oh,
"The
yeah.
four of you," and Gus is like, "Well, the four of us."
Well, I'm not with them. What'd you think about the video game part where Superman's
Awful.
kind of flying towards?
Awful.
The
Like-
graphics are pretty good for a computer. I mean, it's obviously
Well,
a
yeah.
fake game. For 1983, it looked pretty good.
That
but,
wasn't a video game then.
No, I know.
It was extreme advancement for
Yeah.
I mean, like that was whoever, people that played video games at the time and watched this movie were like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The graphics. Yeah.
He had a score and everything.
I know. Again, it's just ridiculous again because, like, I don't know. I guess they were trying to play into like the whole new computer age or something, and video games are probably kind of a new thing then too. So they're playing into that, but like the whole idea is just ridiculous.
I
mean,
think we have to keep coming back to this was kind of
Brainiac.
half comedy.
Oh yeah.
Like
for sure.
There's so much in this movie that is just supposed to make you laugh.
Yes.
I don't know about the score part. Like now it's absolutely ridiculous. Maybe back then they're just like, it'll fit in because
kids will love it.
Yeah, we're shooting missiles at Superman and it's on a
Right.
computer screen, so we'll have
Gotta
a score.
Have a score. Maybe, I don't know. So they do a couple things to try to capture Superman or stop Superman. And then you watch this movie tonight, so you're gonna have to refresh my memory here. I know they put him in like a big plastic bubble that he gets out of. And then
it's the kryptonite.
it's the kryptonite. Oh yeah, there's like a kryptonite
Like a beam, yeah.
And that's when they start feeling bad. Like, oh, you're killing him.
Right.
And stuff like that. That's right. So Gus chops it down with an axe. The
Right.
beam orb thing. And then Superman like runs away. Or at least that's what it looks like. Right? Leaving all of them there. But then the computer, I guess because Gus started hitting with an axe, is that why? Like the computer starts to kind of have a meltdown and they all try to escape?
Yeah, it's like it gets shut down and then it like basically is able to pull power from power lines that are close by on the surface and like basically resurrect itself and
that's when it pulls Vera into the machine.
Right.
And that part, her transformation, that's what freaked me out the most as a kid.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, it's cheesy now, but like the metal plates going onto her head and just the kind of the face she makes and the weird wires and everything.
It's dark.
And then once she's like in full robot kind of makeup, her eyes are freaky and everything to me, or they were when I was a kid. Kind of still freaks me out a little bit. I think just because it reminds me of how I felt as a kid watching it. But I mean, like I said, it looks kind of cheesy now, but yeah, it was dark when I was young, and it freaked me out. So that was my least favorite scene of the movie when I was a child, was Vera turning into a robot. But
and then it tries to do Superman.
It does, and that also kind of creeped me out too. Like looking at it now, it's so obvious that it was a reverse shot. They had like the wires on them, and they pulled them off, and then they just reversed the footage. But I remember and I think that's part. I didn't know as a kid that it was reversed, and it has that weird, kind of almost surreal kind of
like
look to
an unnatural.
Unnatural, yeah, exactly, because it's reversed. And I remember that being kind of a weird shot and kind of freaking me out a little bit as a kid.
Yeah,
just the whole supercomputer thing, it just kind of weirded me out.
Yeah,
but yeah, it tries to get Superman, but it looked like he ran away, but he actually went to that chemical plant to grab a whatever you want to call it, a bottle of the acid which I guess computers do put off heat, so I guess he was putting it somewhere where the computer was putting off enough heat that it raised the temperature of that acid and made it volatile. They never I never got the impression that computer was putting off a lot of heat, but obviously it was.
I can't remember if it has something to do with like the beam of kryptonite, because they do the beam again. Yeah, I don't remember what it was. It seems like there was something though that made sense for what it's worth about it heating up.
Yeah. But that's how he ends up destroying the supercomputer, is with the vial of acid. So there's a little bit of throwback to the beginning of the movie. Yeah, and then, the last note I wrote about this movie was that Superman, in my opinion, forgives Gus way too easily. He obviously forgives Gus because it's Richard Pryor. But
right.
He is totally fine with the fact that this guy built a supercomputer.
Right.
He's just misunderstood.
He's like, you helped me out at the end. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. You're good. I understand. You're actually a good person.
It was like in Spider-Man 3 with Sandman.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. What's with the superhero 3 movies where they just are
just like, oh, you feel bad about what you did now? Okay. You can
all right,
go.
I'll let you go. You should give this man a job. That's actually, he tries to get him hired
right.
at the.
That's
he's like, does your boss have a computer? And he's like, yeah, he's got a computer. Well, he could do a lot worse than hiring this guy for a job or something like that. It's like, that was just weird to me.
There's a lot of weird things about this movie.
Yeah. So then, I'm trying to remember how it ends exactly. I know he goes back to the Daily Planet. Writes the story. Lana Lang gets hired at the Daily Planet, which I thought was kind of cool.
He gives her a diamond
He gives her a
ring.
Oh, that's right. He crushes the coal.
Yeah, which I thought that was hilarious when what's his name walks in.
Perry White?
No, the guy from Smallville.
Brad?
Yes, Brad walks in, and Clark's on his knees.
Oh yeah.
He goes, I hate you, Clark.
Yeah.
That was a good moment. But no, that's when I realized, when they showed the diamond, I was like, I would really like for Lana Lang and Clark to get together.
Yeah. And she's not in part 4, so I don't know why they decided to abandon that storyline.
Thanks for spoiling it for me.
Well, I mean, it's not like she's in the beginning and dies or something. She's just not in the movie. So I don't know how much of a spoiler that is.
I'm kidding. It's fine. It's Superman 4. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I should say once Superman becomes good, he goes back to the Leaning Tower of Pisa and
that's right. And
makes it lean
again.
And the guy that sells the souvenirs is just his life is ruined.
He's like, now he's just teasing me.
Yeah. He does also go to the oil tanker, and he somehow
that's
miraculously
in my notes.
Pulls all the oil back in.
I was like, how long was that tanker sitting there? And then he can just go and plug it back up, and it's fine. The rest of the oil's still in there.
He has apparently that's another superpower Superman has that I didn't know about, is the fact that he can separate oil and water really well. He can just put it right back where it came from.
But they had been sitting there for a while. You could tell when the captain waves to him through the glass. I kind of wish he had been clean shaven. Because when he waves to him, he's got a pretty thick, he's got some facial hair, and it's just been
he's actually help. And Superman's like, good day, sir.
We're starving. We're thirsty.
Our food ran out weeks ago. Yeah, that'd be good. So yeah, I think I don't have anything else. You want to go into the rating?
Sure. I'm going to give it 2 out of 5 stars.
Yeah. I think I was originally leaning towards 2.5, and the half star was probably due to nostalgia, but honestly, it's not worthy of 2.5.
No.
It's a 2-star movie. Yeah.
It is, and even then I might feel like I'm giving it a little bit I don't know. There was, we were talking about the Superman fighting was, for whatever reason, I don't know why. I can't explain it, but for whatever reason, I enjoyed watching that.
Yeah, I agree.
So
well, Christopher Reeve, like I almost feel like this and Superman 4 are probably going to get an additional half star in my book just because of Christopher Reeve, just because he's always good. He's fun to watch. And
yeah, it was
he's
really
always
cool
good.
to see him in that different role of where he was an angry. He did a really good job with that. So I also kind of wondered if that was him trying to break out of the Superman mold.
Could be.
But I don't know if he had kind of gotten in that curse yet.
Right.
Since this was only the third one.
He might have, though, because the first one came out in 1977. So, I mean, this was like 6 years after the first movie came out.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's possible that I don't know. I know one movie he did, which was called Somewhere in Time, I love that movie, but I don't know how many other movies he kind of had done in between the Superman movies, or if you're right, if he was kind of being.
He's like, I need to show, but like, yeah, he's like, I need to show that I can do other acting. So
yeah,
but he did a good job.
He does do a good job. I mean, like one of my favorite moments in Superman the movie is when he finds out Lois has died, and he does that scream fly thing, like the anger he has in his face and that. Or just in his like whole body in that moment is so good. And he kind of has a similar moment in this movie when he first lands in the junkyard and he has like that kind of, he lets out this scream. He's Christopher Reeve was an amazing actor. And unfortunately, he didn't really get a chance to. I mean, he has done a lot of good movies, and he obviously has quite the range. But I think you're right. I think he did get that whole Superman curse thing and didn't probably get to do as many good things as he should have been able to do.
That was a well-known thing, and I think that's why, maybe I'm wrong here, but I think that's why Michael Keaton didn't continue.
Could be.
Was because he didn't want to become Batman like Christopher Reeve became Superman.
Could be. I wondered if it was that, or if, I mean, that would make sense to me. But also, I wondered if when Tim Burton essentially was, because I don't think the studio wanted Tim Burton to do part 3, since part 2 was so dark and parents were complaining about it and stuff. So I think I don't know. I want to say Tim Burton was let go basically, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't know if he was fired, but I think they were like, maybe you shouldn't direct the third one. And I think when Tim Burton was no longer directing the third one, I think Michael Keaton also was not interested. But I don't know which came first, Michael Keaton leaving or Tim Burton leaving. I don't know.
Right.
But how it would have been really. I want to go visit some other alternate universe where the Tim Burton third Batman came out with Michael Keaton. See what it looks like.
That would be insane.
Mm-hmm. Would it have Billy D. Williams' Two-Face?
Right.
That'd be pretty cool. Well, we'd love to know what you think about Superman 3. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can also leave a comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/SM and SM podcast. You can tweet at us on Twitter at CinemaHeroes, same handle on Instagram. Or this video is on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching it on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We'd love that. If you're just listening to us, check this out on YouTube. You can watch us talk about this movie. We'd love to hear from you either way. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.